Well, I think also too with music, like everyone has sort of a nostalgic, like for like a feeling for like people always talk about like certain eras of music, and what it usually boils down to is just that there were certain eras where when they were like younger and didn't have as many responsibilities and they had more disposable income because they lived at home with mom and dad and whatever, like they went out and they saw live bands all the time and they like bought music all the time and like they were more involved, and so I feel like there's something about that is like there's always this rotation of like people who kind of like, okay, then they kind of like got older and they got out of college and they got like a serious job and they got married and they whatever, and then they sort of like they're not really part of that scene. So like being in a place like Bottom of the Hill for almost 20 years now, like you see people who kind of come in and they're like really like they're at all the shows and they're like in the music scene and they're like consuming a lot of that music and stuff for like 4, 5, 6 years, and then they kind of move on, or they move to another city or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
And so the thing about being around music is it's always kind of a fountain of youth, because like I'm always around like youthful energy, and that's one of the things that's really different about being around live music and concerts and rock and roll and that kind of stuff. Is that there's always like people who are going to kind of phase out of it as new people are kind of coming in.
Right.
And I don't really know, I can't speak to how that translates to like photography or other industries or other careers. I just know that it's one of the things that like, even at my age, like it's, weird because like I'm always around like people that are so much younger than me, but it's good because it guys kind of like, there's just a certain energy and an enthusiasm, and like people aren't cynical and they're not jaded and they're not burned out, and like, so that I do think that the thing about music is that it's kind of the fountain of youth, to always be working around.
Yeah, and
music when people are like young and enthusiastic and want to participate.
Yeah, nobody, and that's the other thing, and maybe this is an artifact of it too. Like, hour 11 of a 14-hour photo shoot is like sucks, or film shoot or whatever sucks. I mean, work can suck, especially on a like long day. Like it can be hard. But, like, we're so lucky in that, like, most of the time, like, the hardest part of our day is, like, the beginning of it. And then, like, nobody's fucking bummed at a rock show.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's depressed at, I mean, it can be, music can be depressing. Music can be a lot of things. But, like, nobody's super bummed going and seeing their, like, top 20 favorite bands, they're just like, they're stoked,
Yeah, they've been waiting months, actually. Like, ever since the tour was announced, they've been, like, excited about it, and they bought tickets, and they've been waiting for a long time, so...
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
That's a vibe,
Yeah.
Like, you can't put that into words, but that's not drudgery,
Yeah.
And that's basically the end of our day, sans loadout if you're touring, which loadout's fine, Loadout means you get to, like, have a beer or after show food or whatever, but yeah, nobody's ever bummed at a show, so like it's it's cool. I dig it.
Yeah.